Today we're here with Coach Sokolofsky, the track team and the football team. So you coach two different sports. What are your two different approaches you have for those?
That's a good question. They are very different sports, which is actually one of the reasons why I'm able to coach both, because it's not so much of the same thing throughout the year. Track and field is a much different, it's a tremendous team sport in meets where you're working together to score points, but it's also a very individual sport. So athletes are training hard on their own in terms of trying to get those marks that they want to get, and you're kind of helping them prepare for that as they go along. Football, there's so much of a team aspect to it that they're two very different sports, and I think that's what allows me to kind of be able to stay really motivated in both of those sports, but very different. But I love both of the sports a lot, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. And what inspired you to become a coach for both football and track?
So when I was in high school, I was a three-sport athlete. I did football, basketball, and track and field. And I switched to track. I was a baseball player, but I was kind of sick of being with the same great athletes in baseball and kind of being behind them. So I ventured out into track and had a really successful high school track career. And then at Cortland, where I went to college, I did both sports. So I was actually all 3 seasons at Cortland. I did football in the fall and then indoor and outdoor track and field at Cortland as well. So when I came to Somers, I was able to meet, obviously, the football coach, Tony DiMatteo, who I was really interested in coaching with, and the track and field coaches, which were Roy Arneson and Tim Fulton at the time. And Roy's who the track is named after. So I was really lucky when I first got here to be under some really good mentors in both sports.
Yeah, so we'll talk about football first. So what is your coaching background in football?
So at Cortland, being a player, obviously, my entire life was an important piece to that, and I loved football so much that I didn't really want to let it go even after finishing in college. The idea was that my last year at Cortland, I was injured and couldn't play as a football player, so I became a JV coach there. So I started coaching JV football at SUNY Cortland. And then when I first started here, I was a modified coach for 2 years. And then I was able to move up to the varsity when the offensive line coach retired. So I've been coaching here for 24 years. 22 of them were varsity. And I took over the offensive line pretty much right away, and defensive ends as well, which is still what I coach to this day. In terms of football. And then basically I learned so much from Tony DiMatteo here, and learning about paying attention to the details and learning the entire sport of football, not just the position I was coaching, really helps you be successful at coaching your position. When you could see the whole picture, it's been super helpful in terms of my background with that.
So you kind of answered this question already, but so your main focus as a coach, why did you pick that focus?
I think my main focus as a football coach is to get my positions specifically, and everybody, because we all work together, to pay attention to the details, to realize how important the little things are to our overall success. And that's something that's hard for a high school athlete to understand. They're getting to practice, they're trying to get through practice because nobody loves practice, not even the coaches. But making them realize that the details and the little things are important is really my main focus throughout the season, whether it's preparing for a game or even watching film after a game. We pay attention to their first step and their second step and their head placement, and all the little details are the things that we focus on the most, because that's what really works its way into the big picture.
Yeah, so could you describe for us what a typical day looks like for you during football season?
Yeah, so football's obviously it's a lot of time. So our typical, if I look at it from a week perspective, Monday and Tuesday is a big install day for our plays and the things that we're going to be doing that week. We get them to understand the other team and what we're doing and why we're doing it, and we practice those things. And we practice from 2:30 until about 5:15 or so, 5:30. And then Wednesday we go to our helmet and shoulder pads, where we're still finishing up our installation, but we have to get some of the other stuff prepared for the game as well. Goal line offense, goal line defense, things like that. Thursday is our pregame day, which usually after we run through everything, we have a team dinner and eat together, and we're generally done by about 6:30 those days. Friday's usually game night, and then Saturday we come in for about 4 hours or so to do film and look at the mistakes from the game and make those corrections, and the kids work out. And then Sunday we come in here all day to prepare for the next game. So it's 7 days a week, sometimes 40 or 50 hours a week of just football alone, not including our teaching job. So it's a lot of time, and the season is you just got to put your head down and fight through the tiredness and drink coffee and kind of push yourself through, and you just keep looking at that motivation to get to the next level and the next game and stuff. So
definitely sounds like there's a lot of moving parts for each week.
It's a lot, absolutely. Yeah, football's intense when it comes to all that stuff. A lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you do with the team during the off season to be fully prepared for next year?
So we work on giving them a little bit of time off after the season, and then after the holidays we start to develop our lifting program, where they check in, they get lifts from our trainer, Kevin Mullen, and they test on all their lifts, and they go through that lifting program through the winter. And then when the spring starts, after a couple of weeks, we start 1 day a week practices. So we have 7-on-7 throwing that Coach DiMatteo runs, and I run offensive line sessions where we start to install our plays, and we do drills and things that you don't always get to during the season to prepare ourselves physically for the season. And Coach Packer will meet with them for defense, and Coach Cleary with the linebackers, and we start to meet them as much as possible. Then we have 7-on-7s, which are tournaments that we enter with our team. Usually there's a lineman challenge in there, which is all the linemen from different schools come together, which is pretty cool. And then we have our camps over the summer and our 3 days a week workouts over the summer as well, before the season even starts. Yeah,
it's definitely a lot.
It's a lot. It's a year. It's pretty much a year-round thing, because then as coaches we're also watching the films from last year to see what things worked, what didn't work, as well as watching teams that we're going to be playing next year.
Yeah, and how do you guys plan to win a 4th consecutive championship?
So I think the key is to continue what we've done, obviously, to not veer off the path, because what we've been doing is obviously working. But at the same time, we continue to make changes. We have to figure out each team, because each team is different. So we have to figure out which plays are going to work for our personnel, and what we should be doing more of or what we should be doing less of. And I think just having our kids realize that they're not just going to win a championship because they're playing here, because we've been so successful. They have to realize that each team has to earn it themselves and put in the work and put in the time. So I think that's a big factor as to how the team comes together when the season starts.
Yeah, definitely. And now let's move a little more onto track. So what is your background of coaching track?
So track, again, I competed in track for many years as a jumper and a sprinter. And then when I came here, I became the jumping coach for the boys and the girls. And I've been here coaching track for 24 years. And I have also, once Roy Arneson retired, I took over the boys team for 6 years. And I was the head coach of the boys. And then I went back to being an assistant in 2020, which was the COVID year. I went back to being an assistant. I realized that there's so much technology involved in coaching track now in terms of entries and putting kids in the computer before the meet so that they're registered for the meet. And I'm a little bit more old school, where that was kind of difficult for me, so I had the younger coaches doing that for me. I also have my own kids now, so I knew that I would need a little bit of freedom to get to their games, so I decided to step back and be an assistant again in in track and field. But obviously, over the last 24 years, our track teams had a lot of success, both in indoor and outdoor. And I don't coach indoor because I'd like to spend that winter season with my family, and it keeps me kind of fresh, for both football and track in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what aspects of track and field are you currently coaching?
So I coach the girls sprinters, as well as both boys and girls jumpers. So that's really my main focus. That's what I have the most background in. I was a jumper and sprinter myself. So I've really always stuck to those groups in terms of my specialties.
And how do you best prepare your athletes for a track meet?
So I think the training is so important, as it is in any sport, but coming up with good workouts, coming up with a way to allow your athletes to peak at the right time. In track, you're not going to just keep getting better and better through the season. You have to try to prepare yourself to be peaking at the right time. So sometimes that involves earlier meets, not necessarily getting the score that you're looking for, but knowing that you're working your way to that so that you don't do too much along the way. And I think also you have to understand that once the meet comes, the training is done. You've done the training. You've got yourself there, and there's a lot of mental aspects to competing in a track meet, and that's what I try to focus on at the meets, is just the mental piece. Yeah. And everybody's a little different. Right? Some people are super nervous. Some people, get down on themselves after a bad performance. There's so many factors to it that I try to focus on that mental aspect during the meets.
Yeah, definitely.
And what does a typical practice look like for these sprinters and jumpers?
So a typical practice, and again we break it down by week, is generally you'll have 2 days of workouts, which are kind of harder days, where they're either doing a longer type workout to build up kind of that lactate threshold, or we're doing like super fast, shorter stuff to work on the speed. So that's 2 days a week, and then the other 2 days of the week, the jumpers jump. So jumpers are also sprinters. You have to have speed in order to be able to jump. Generally, maybe high jumps a little different, but all the other jumps. So they're also sprinters usually. So we treat them like sprinters on the workout days, 2 jumping days a week as well that we do when they're not going to do any of the workout stuff.
All right. So now, what is your favorite part of being a coach of both football and track?
I think in both, the ability to allow somebody to reach their potential and try to help them reach that potential, and seeing the success along the way. In football, it's not always as clear. You kind of see it on film. In track, it's right there for you because your times and your jumps just get better and they get their best scores. So being able to see the success of the athletes and watch them improve and accomplish things that they didn't think they could necessarily accomplish, that has been, I think, the best part of coaching both those sports for me.
And have you coached any other sports previously?
Yeah, so when I first started here, I did some girls basketball. I was a JV coach for 2 years and varsity girls basketball coach for about 4 years. And I've also coached indoor track and field a couple of seasons, but I didn't really like the going to the city, to the Armory, and the Sundays, and some of the crazy schedule that entails. And now with kids, obviously, it's not easy to do. So, they're 2 different sports, but the same goals are always in mind. Trying to get as best as you can, trying to see the improvement, which is cool.
Yeah. And final question, what is your most proudest moment as either a football or track coach?
That's a tough question. I would have to say, obviously, the state championship in any of them, specifically the first, which was 2016, but then being able to do it again 3 times in a row. Because I spent so many years here coaching from 2001 to 2011, where we didn't win any championship. We won league championships, but we didn't win the sectional championship until 2012. And that was an amazing feeling, but realizing that winning a state championship, it's so hard to do. You have to, have a little bit of luck in there, and then being able to accomplish that and then do it over and over again is I'm just super proud of that, and I'm super happy of the way that that also affects our community, you know, the pride in the community and brings the community together. I think that's just an amazing feeling for me, and I live here too, so that's been really cool. And, you know, the same thing goes for track. We've had some amazing championships and some amazing individual performances, and just being able to see kids hit that level. And in track too, it doesn't matter if it's our best kid or our kid that's just getting started. Watching them be happy with a score, getting their personal best, getting a PR, it's just a great feeling. So there's been a lot, but the state championships in football obviously are another level of pride, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.